Hello.
Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Monday. I am just realizing I need to share this into the group. So I'm doing that right now, trying to remember to do this each week. How are you doing, Carissa? How was your weekend?
I'm doing good. Our weekend was beautiful, relaxing, very nice. Not a beach day yesterday, but still enjoyed the outside. How was yours?
Yeah, it was good.
Hot. Hot by you. Very hot.
It was hot. I explain it though. It is it's hot, but it's a warm hot. Does that make sense?
Well, not like
It's a warm.
it
It's
like
not a humid hot. It's like you walk out and you're warm. You're not dripping.
yeah,
So
I like
so
that.
I can deal with that.
Yeah,
I
that's
prefer
actually
that.
very nice.
Yeah, dripping is no fun. So, welcome to those of you who have joined us. Give a shout out in the chat. Say hello, so we know that you're there and you're watching. We've got a good old 4th of July week, you guys. So, celebrating our independence as a nation. And I think it's really appropriate for us to talk about maybe celebrating our independence from our old habits, our old beliefs, our old patterns that have us be stuck and allow us to kind of step into that new future that we're all here wanting to step into as we continue to learn and grow and evolve as human beings, right?
Hmm.
It's a good way of putting it. I mean, where, Carissa, have you seen? I mean, we see all the time, you guys. So in working with clients, Carissa and I, we see people kind of holding themselves back. It's like they want that independence into that new life, that new future. Being able to enjoy things they haven't been able to enjoy, and then there are certain patterns or certain things that hold them back. Where have you seen that come up?
Well, it's interesting because just on Friday, I was working with a client and
Uh-huh.
we talked about how she's been making, a lot of changes within the past week. And then she was a little nervous because now she was invited to go out to a steakhouse with her friends. So I asked her,
Yes.
what was nerve wracking about that? And she said, well, because now I'm going to have to eat all of the things that I know that I shouldn't eat. So we kind of just spent a little time reframing that, reframing social situations as an opportunity for growth and connection rather than seeing it as like a threat to our health, which most of us
Yes.
do, right? Because, like you just said, the program, the patterning that we have, like, oh, we're going to the steakhouse, so we have to eat till we get sick or not feel good, or the next day not feel good. So it's very interesting how we can view, our social situations like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you hit a couple nails on the head. I mean, those of you who are watching or those of you who are watching later, how many of you have, been in that place where you're like, oh, uh, this is all great. Oh, but this is happening, right? It's
Hmm.
the whole like, I'm going to start to change my diet on Monday. And then, I always use the example. It's like you do really, really good, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday, you were like, oh, there's a birthday party on Saturday. And
Hmm.
then you're like, forget it. I'll go revisit this next Monday. But there's always like a something that comes up. So
Hmm.
there's always like another Monday and another Monday, and another Monday. And then we just end up in a space where we're just stuck. Like we never move from where we actually are, but we have to start to recognize that if we're going to make changes, we do have to start to do things differently. Otherwise, Einstein says that's the definition of insanity, just doing the same thing over and over again. But I recognize like all that is great talk. We know that. And then sometimes when we're in that situation or that place, it becomes a little bit more difficult,
Hmm.
you know? So thinking about the story that you shared of the client who's like, oh yeah, but we're going out to the steakhouse. I don't want to not have XYZ or, have this or have that or whatever. I don't want to make choices that are different. So, I mean, what do we do? You guys type into the chat comment here. How do you handle those situations when you hear yourself starting to say it? Right. And I think that's the first piece, right? The first piece is starting to listen and hear yourself saying it like, oh, isn't that interesting? Like I said that I wanted this and this was important to me, but I already blocked myself because it's comfortable staying in a space where we already are and not having to shift out of that and make changes, So let's talk about Carissa because it's the 4th of July, and I know people it might not be the steakhouse that they're coming up with, but they might be going to barbecues or events or parties, and there might be barbecues all summer long. Let's talk about some of the things that people can do to kind of manage their way through those situations. So let's start with the example of the person at the steakhouse, right? I mean, the first thing I notice is that limiting belief of, oh, I can't go to the steakhouse and not have the same thing that I always have.
Yes.
Right. As we talk about it, you can say, oh, well, I get that. Yeah, of course, I can choose something different, right? And still be able to go to the steakhouse, enjoy the people and the company, and not put all that emphasis on the food, for example.
Well, I think that's very important. What you just said is making that choice, because I see that a lot of people get conflicted and then they end up going with the thing that is most comfortable, because that's what our body wants. That's what our brain wants. Even if the outcome is not healthy for us, we're still comfortable in it. So I think just recognizing, like what you just said, like hearing yourself being like, oh, look at that limiting belief that I'm sharing with myself, and then just making the conscious decision to do something than what you normally do. So I like to recommend, like, even, doing the anchoring that we do in our breakthrough coaching. I think that's a wonderful experience that you can do for yourself. So you have that physical anchor on you. And just even future pacing, I think, is really great to like visualize yourself successfully navigating that social experience and feeling that confidence, feeling that, feeling relaxed. I think is a really powerful tool. And we underestimate it, right? Because it's not something that we have to like grudge through. It actually feels good to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's part of it is being okay with being uncomfortable. And I think we've said this maybe every single week, right? Just being okay with being uncomfortable, because that's where the change and the growth really occurs, right? And it's the only place that we can really change and grow. But I think there's something important to note, because I'm listening to some of the refamiliarizing myself with some of Joe Dispenza's work, and he says something that's really important, right? Is that we've taken so much time literally having our mind train our physical body. Right. So now our mind has trained our physical body and how to act, behave, to move, to even influence our own mind patterns. Right. Here's a circle that happens. So it's like, you're like, okay, I'm going to make this decision to do this. And then we end up in a space where like our body's like, no, I'm craving that. What do you crave at the steakhouse? I'm craving those mashed potatoes, smothered in butter. My body is physically wanting it. But it's not until we actually reinforce and train, be like, nope, this was the commitment and the choice that I made. This is the way that I'm moving forward, right? Like taking that courage to actually do something different and create that different pathway versus reinforcing that old and familiar. over and over and over again, right? Which is how people get stuck in those patterns, because we're stuck in reinforcing that old behavior, and it's uncomfortable for a little while. It's uncomfortable making those new choices and decisions and doing that thing differently,
1000%. And I think that's such a huge part of it too, right? Is just managing your emotional state. So there's many ways that you can manage your emotional state, like journaling, working with your coach, exercise. There's so many things that we can do that are so underestimated that really, I mean, they give us huge results when we do them consistently. And I know we've talked about that a lot too, is
consistency. Yeah. But in the light of doing things differently, right? Like if you're trying to change the patterns in your life, even start with doing the easy things differently, right? Like brush your teeth with the other hand, right? Get up on the other side of the bed than you normally get up in. Change your morning routine. So if the first thing you do is you wake up and you go into a specific room, do something different, go to a different area, try a different way to start to break up that already always way of doing things,
Yeah.
So guys, go ahead and say hello in the comments. Tell us, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? Share with us. What are you hearing in there?
Yeah, I'm curious to know how anyone else feels about like how they interrupt the automatic behaviors. Like, what is it that you guys do to do that? Because I feel like that is a really great thing to do, right? Instead of reaching for the unhealthy snack at the party, change your environment. Like you just said, like going into another room, maybe talking to someone away from the snacks, just doing something different than what you normally do.
Yeah. Let's strategize a little bit, Carissa. Let's give them some real tips and tricks and how to navigate those, barbecues and parties and things like that, so that they can get through and still maintain true to their goals. I mean, I think you just gave a bunch of them, right? You just said like, okay, so steer yourself in the opposite direction, right? You don't need to go stand over by the bowl of chips at the table, right? Focus on, one of mine is focus on the people. You are there to enjoy and be with people, right? When we go to these social events, it is to be social, to take part with other people, not necessarily to eat, right? The focus isn't always on the eating portion. So enjoy the people around you. Be present with them. When we're present with one another, like time goes by like this. What else? What else can we do?
I think we could bring food, right? We can bring like a healthy option for ourselves and of course for everyone else to share, so you don't feel like you're just doing it for yourself. I think that's really great, because if you tend to like want to eat for anxiety or for cravings, at least you have a healthy option that you've made and that you can share with other people to kind of snack on. And like you said, I'm a huge fan of just focusing on the people that you're with. And if sometimes social interactions can give you anxiety, I think it's also important to have like an out. Maybe you don't want to be at a party for 4 hours. So, just letting them know beforehand, oh, I have to leave at such and such time, can really reduce anxiety for yourself. And if you end up having a great time, then you just stay. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other thing too, because I think sometimes people do have anxiety about going out or being social or things like that too, is actually, going through like taking some deep breaths, connecting with yourself, bringing yourself back to yourself, not just a tool for that event, but actually before you go, right? Like just take that time and be like, okay, like see yourself at the event, see yourself being really successful, sticking with your goals, enjoying the event and the people and the moments, right? Rather being focused on the food and such,
Yeah, I think that's great to, set your intentions before you go, and playing the tape out, like you said, and keep playing that tape out until it feels really good for you. Because I know I'm going to mess up this saying, but I know you know it. attention goes, energy flows where attention goes. I feel like I always get it backwards.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're fine. Yeah. Yeah. Our energy goes exactly where our attention goes. And whatever that thing is, that grows.
Yeah, it really does. It's fascinating,
Yep.
really.
Yeah. So I think that's important for people to remember. I was in a group this weekend, and somebody was talking about, like they had this issue where they also felt like, there was an expectation of them whenever they were out, with a select group of friends to have to, have alcohol. And they weren't really sure, and they were, how to navigate it. And they were disappointed with themselves because it was like, oh, well, they said I'm only fun if I have alcohol. And, we, as part of the collective group, right, we started to discuss this sort of situation. And I know this comes up for people a lot when it comes to social events and such. So I mean, that's another thing for us to talk about is just navigating your way. So I mean, number one, the truth is we don't have to have alcohol to be fun or to socialize or to enjoy ourselves, right? We shouldn't ever feel pressured to have alcohol, right? And then there's also, you can have different, you can have different beverages, maybe that even look like an alcoholic beverage. So you're not preoccupied of, are people wondering what you're drinking or things like that. So there's lots of different ways around now. What are some of the things that you suggest?
I think that is the biggest one that I suggest until people feel more comfortable navigating that, because it is very interesting that alcohol is probably the only substance that when you aren't partaking in, people question you. There's,
Yeah.
there's really no other substance that people want to know why you're not doing, but alcohol truly is. And until we start
Yeah.
understanding that it's really the other person that has the
Yeah.
problem with it, and it's not with you, it's with them, because
Yeah.
it's really inappropriate to talk about something like that with someone who is
Mhm.
abstaining from alcohol. I think
Yeah.
we should normalize making it normal, not questioning people, but we're not there yet. So I think it's really great what you said. And I tell clients all the time, like, just have a drink that looks like a drink. I've had clients had success like with going up to the bar and just being like, give me seltzer and cranberry and like put something fancy in it. And then no one asks them
Yes.
anymore. They truly don't until and when you navigate those social situations a couple times, it really does get
Mhm.
easier to where you feel confident enough to be like, no, I'm not drinking. And
Yeah.
the more confidence you have in that statement, the less people will ask you.
Hmm. Yeah. And the truth is, I mean, so alcohol isn't good for your body, right? When we have alcohol, I mean, to forget just the content of the alcohol itself in terms of how it disrupts our blood sugar. And, sometimes it releases inhibitions and we end up eating more than we, had anticipated that we were eat or needing to snack or things like that. But the other thing is too, is when we drink alcohol releases it's our own toxins in our body, endotoxin. And so then the body then has to go ahead and deal with that. So the less we're actually drinking, the better off we are. And there's plenty of research behind that. And the more alcohol we drink, the more issues we have, or more likelihood we have towards Alzheimer's or dementia or things like that. So we do really want to be responsible, and does that mean that no one should ever have, a glass of wine or something for the rest of their lives? I mean, no, that's not what it means, right? I mean, I sure as heck love a really nice, organic, biodynamic glass of wine every now and again. It is about being able to, number one, manage and detoxify that, making sure that your body's in a good place to deal with that. And then number two, like being able to pick and choose your situations, not feel like you're in a space where you have to because it's socially acceptable, or you're worried about that social, that social pressure.
Mhm.
So yeah. Yeah. How do you guys who are watching, how do you feel about, how do you feel about that? Because that seems to be a thing that comes up a lot. And certainly in conversations that I have with our clients and Carissa, the conversations that you're having with clients around alcohol and really managing those social situations and alcohol during those situations. It's one of those summertime things.
It truly is.
Yeah. So you guys, I really want you all to be empowered to come from that place of choice, whether it's with alcohol or it's with your food or it's going out to a restaurant, and again, changing the mindset of, sometimes people are like, well, I can't have that, right? And that is a mindset that is set up for failure, right? Because you've already put yourself in a victim space rather than in a space of empowerment, right? When you're choosing not to do something or choosing to do something else, that's very different than saying I can't, right? Even I won't is a very different space than I can't, right? Like I just won't do that.
Yeah, I think I can't, I hope, I won't, I think those are all words that kind of need to be removed because they are very disempowering,
I'm not allowed.
Yeah, exactly. The fact is you are allowed and you can make these choices. And so, do you want to make a choice that's going to make you feel good, or do you want to make a choice that's not going to make you feel good? So, I tend to look at it like that, like nothing is bad or good, because I feel like that can kind of sometimes feel icky. But just looking at the situation and being like, what makes me feel good? What do I want? What is it that I need? Because if you're setting your intention to go for your goals, then there are things you can do, like visualization, meditation. Deep breathing's amazing, and I just feel it's so undervalued. Just getting that exercise to get your endorphins pumping and dopamine and serotonin and eating healthy food so you can navigate in these social situations. It feels a heck of a lot better. It really does.
It does. Deciding who you want to be in those spaces and time, I think, is important, right? And knowing that you are in that driver's seat and it is your choice, right? It's always our choice. Now, every action has its own consequence, right? Every action has a reaction. We just are choosing what that action is going to be, and the consequence of that, it's not bad, it's not wrong, it's just whatever the consequence is. But we get to stand in a space of, okay, do I want to do this or do I want to do this, and then make that decision from there. It's a place of empowerment versus that place that we often come from of disempowering ourselves.
Yeah,
good. All right. So what do we want to sum up for here in our last couple minutes before the big holiday week? And it's like a holiday week. I guess some people celebrated 4th of July last weekend. Some people are celebrating it, this week. Some people are celebrating it next weekend. Some people are celebrating the whole entire time. I mean, I want to leave all of you guys with that, knowing that you are in the driver's seat, right? Knowing that you can make choices and decisions. There is no right choice or wrong choice. There's no bad choice. There is just what it is that you want the outcome on the other side to be. And that really is the ownership and the maturity, right? Like my little 6-year-old, she doesn't understand that bad outcome is necessarily always connected to something, right? And so she might still get upset. But we as adults, and we have that logic and reasoning, it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I chose that, and this is the response to what I chose. So we're in that driver's seat. I hope that makes sense for everybody. So that's really what I want everybody to leave with, because that is like for your entire life, not just for navigating social situations right now.
Yeah, I think I would love to send them off with, because it's cheap. It doesn't cost anything. It's easy. You don't need to study on it. But just really before attending a celebration, set those clear intentions for the type of experience that you want, for the type of, from the food you're going to eat, from the drink that you want to drink, to the interactions that you want to have with people. And just really visualize yourself like enjoying that atmosphere and enjoying that healthy food and whatever it is you choose to drink and feeling good about your choices. I feel like it's such a powerful thing to do leading up to anything, right? Because we normally know when we have something to go to. It doesn't usually pop up in an hour, but even if it does, you could still do this. I think it's just really powerful. And like we talked about, like it gives you the power back. And it's something simple that you can do that you don't need someone else to do it with. It's all on you. And that's really wonderful to have that tool.
Yeah. And what you said before is really powerful. Where you focus your attention is on where that energy goes. And that's the thing that grows.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're focusing your attention on having this great experience rather than focusing on what you can have or you can't have, or what's the food or what's the alcohol, like completely different experience.
Yes.
So lots of power there.
Love that.
All right, everyone. Happy 4th of July and wishing you lots of independence from all of those old habits, behaviors, thought patterns, etc. as you step into your new life and your new health. So, all right, everybody, we'll talk to you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.